You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. Today is June 1st, 2025, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing on this fine Sunday?
Oh, Spencer, hello. I am doing well. Happy first day of June to you. It's Trading Post Day, and summertime is very close around the corner. It doesn't feel like summertime in my neck of the woods, but it's inevitable. It will happen, and yeah, I'm here, and man, we got kind of a slow week in terms of retail news this week, but we do have like a new feature launching because that's kind of the nature of 11.1.5. So I'm excited to check that out. I've been, staying pretty busy in WoW, and I don't know. It's getting to be a weird time of the patch, of the season, of the tier, especially when it dovetails with this time of year, because you start really seeing people kind of want to spend their time in other ways.
Yep.
In my case, I have a real problem right now because one of my raiders messaged me last night to say that they and like at least 4 or 5 other people were leaving the team and leaving ZTH to go start their own thing.
Oh yeah, that's pretty.
And
normal.
These are people that have been like relatively consistent attendees and performers for about 2 years now. Oof. So this is a huge chunk of my roster to lose when we're kind of hanging on by a thread to still do mythics and stuff.
Right.
Which is like, it's understandable. You have to play the game the way that you want to play, and I don't really begrudge anybody for doing that. And these people all came in together 2 years ago, which was a huge boon at the time.
Yeah.
But now the other side of the coin is a huge problem in terms of, keeping the roster healthy. So, that's definitely going to change the complexion of at least the next few weeks for like how we kind of approach the game and what we're doing. The good thing is this is why we moved to Stormrage and to ZTH a couple of years ago, because we have great support from the wider guild leadership and everything like that. If we were still kind of fighting the good fight on Bailgun, this might be the end of it could be the end of mythic raiding for the rest of the expansion, but honestly. So having that infrastructure and everything helps tremendously, and it takes all the pressure off. Like, we know that we'll find people who are looking for teams, and we can funnel them in, and we'll work them into the process. And it might be a few weeks until, or maybe even a couple months. Maybe it's not until season 3 till we can really get back to the roster size that we want. But we have a vehicle to get there. Whereas in the past, I really had the thought last night, like, man, if we were still back on Bailgun trying to just go it alone, like, this might actually be the end. How would we replace that many people on any kind of basis? Like, yeah, we still have 15, 16 people to go do heroic raid, but once they start, kind of cycling out, then what,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tricky. And I think, like, because of the way that Blizzard has sort of let these, small and medium-sized servers just wither on the vine over the years and really not supported guilds, it's like, there's still a part of me that would prefer to kind of do my own thing and have a smaller guild that's sort of just my raid team, and that we just sort of have our own tight-knit little culture. But that's really hard. I would go so far to say that that's like almost non-viable on a long-term basis with the way the game is set up. And I mean, I felt that years ago. That's why we moved, right? But I'm really glad we did. And like, I mean, Sparty hopped right in and started helping us get stuff together and assess like how to move forward. So stuff like that is awesome. That's a big part of why we wanted to move. So
yeah,
that's going to be, I think that's going to be a bigger challenge for my crew for the next few weeks than anything related to playing the video game. So that's just that's life and WoW, I guess.
It is, and this is the right time to do it. So props to them for choosing to wait until, a couple months from the next thing launches, next season launches, and giving people enough of a heads up that they can try and find those backfills and those recruits to try and get people in and more regular on the team. And I think that's the thing that I enjoy about this. It's never fun having, especially that size of a roster split off from your group, and it is really difficult to backfill and replace. But yeah, you're right. You have a lot of community supports involved in ZTH and DJs that are going to help out with that. And the thing that you're hoping for in the meantime is for the teams that are currently clearing Mythic or getting close to finishing Mythic, if they're taking breaks or having weeks off after they've cleared it, or after they're, what because of summer or whatever it is, that those people are then looking for a team they can go and run a few Mythic bosses with, just to try and get vault stuff and whatnot going. So that'll be hopefully something that you come across. I know our team's currently planning on doing at least 1, if not 2 weeks off after we kill Galley tonight, hopefully. And we'll just be in a situation where, yeah, like if you want to Mythic Raid, you can just go Mythic Raid with anyone you want and go and, do a couple of bosses with whatever team just to fill in that time if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, just take a break from the game for a bit and enjoy. So yeah, it's I wish you guys the best, and obviously, hopefully things come together over the next couple of months before the next chunk of content comes out. Either way, there'll be a big surge of players coming back when that next tier and next season launches. So I think you can count on that at least, which is good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't have any, and thank you for the words. I don't really think that we'll have like much of an issue getting back to where we want to be at some point. And in some ways, it's like, well, this just sort of accelerates the lighter summer schedule kind of idea, right? Like,
yeah,
we will want to work new people into the team when we can grab them and stuff, for sure. And I did kind of send a message out to the rest of the team, like, hey, we're losing these people, like they're moving on to do their own thing, like they're not going to be raiding with us. Please show up if you can to scheduled raids, because we need the attendance as a recruiting vehicle.
Yeah.
It's really hard to recruit players to a team that isn't raiding. So, I think we still have a really strong core group of players, and at least a size that will allow us to continue clearing heroic raids. But this is a time when people want to check out, or like, even for Tuesday reset, like don't really want to log in and do the thing because there's nothing they really need. But hopefully some people will just chip in just for the group, just so we can, just keep the momentum going, and that's how you kind of pick players up as you go along.
Yeah. Our team's entering a similar phase, because once you defeat the last boss on Mythic, what tends to happen is that's when all the reassessment happens of like, okay, who still wants to play the class that they're playing going forward? You're no longer locked into that because we're not on prog anymore. If you're wanting to switch stuff, take the next week or two and just figure out if you want to switch roles, you want to switch classes, you want to change something you were doing. If this isn't the right environment, you're going somewhere else, whatever it is. As well as recruits then start kicking in a lot more in Mythic content, because the people who are locked in for that last boss, or especially the last couple bosses, are generally just locked in. And it means that anyone who's been sitting on the sidelines, particularly recruits, haven't really been raiding. They've just been showing up, watching the raid as to what's happening, maybe coming in to like backfill if someone's going to be late or has connection issues or whatever it is. But outside of that is sort of sitting on the sidelines and watching. So you have that, okay, let's get some recruits, some experience. And so it's going to be an interesting thing the next chunk of weeks that we have left in this patch, where we're going to be bringing recruits in. We're going to be trialing them, which is a very particular phase for Mythic players, where they essentially are put to a test to see whether or not they can perform on the levels that need to be performed at, and are making decisions that are healthy decisions and whatnot when it comes to their performance and raid. So it'll be neat over the next little bit. I really enjoy the post progression downtime into ramping up phase that happens with Mythic raiding. So that's something that I'm excited for here as we come up on it. But that's not the only thing I did this past week. I've done 4 keys. I healed all the keys. That was fun. I mean, I enjoy this week because I'm doing 12, so it doesn't really affect me as far as affixes go. So that was all right, and I didn't really notice anything in particular about that. But I also did more horrific visions because I needed to get the upgraded helm enchant, which you can now earn. And the upgraded helm enchant requires bloods that only come off the last bosses of the Lost Zones, which are the back zones in Orgrimmar, the farthest away ones. The the frustrating thing with horrific visions for me right now is I still don't really find them that much fun, man. And I tell you why. And here's the thing, and I'm not going to get into a gripe, but here's the thing that would have made horrific visions substantially better. If they had put any effort at all into spell visualizations. They just did a huge revamp on making circles more visible and lines more visible and mechanics more visible and all sorts of things, and had done speech after speech after speech. And then they release horrific visions in the BFA state that they came into the game at, with purple on purple, with a purple haze and purple lines around the purple side of your screen, with the purple and the purple on top of purple. And you're like, okay.
Are you implying that you don't like it when swirlies clip under inclines and you can't even see where any of it is?
Can't even see where any of it is, and you're literally like working your way through an 8 mask, and suddenly you just die, and you're like, what just happened? And there was nothing there. Like, what was going on? And nope, sorry, you had full health, but somehow you got fully corrupted in one massive hit of something you couldn't see. And you're like, okay, like and we talked about it last week, and like I said, I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to hold back, but this did not release in the state that it should have released in for this stage of the expansion. This really needs to be an updated mechanic. It feels like they copy and pasted last thing, added a couple of neat little notes, and then went forward. Okay, good things about visions. I did run like 5 or 6 visions with a couple of friends, which is slightly more enjoyable, although you still have the one-shots where everyone's confused as to what got that one person. But we got a bunch of mounts, which was really neat. So there's a bunch of mounts that I hadn't gotten from Orgrimmar stuff, and they were running it because they needed... the main reason they invited, which I thought was hilarious, they invited me. They poked me out of the blue on Discord because I have a jewel crafter, and there's a mount that requires jewel crafting. And you earn the materials through, so one of them's from Stormwind, the other ones are all from Orgrimmar, and you can earn some of them from Stormwind as well. There's some crossover between those, but you get the recipe this week, and so they brought in my jewel crafter to try and get the recipe. So I got the recipe, which is great, and they're like, "Oh, do you have the wolf mount yet?" And I was like, "I've been collecting the things, but I've never really put the effort into like completing and going up and doing the wolf thing." Like, "Oh, we'll do the wolf thing." I was like, "Okay," so. Went and got the wolf mount and got the wyvern mount and I got like 3 mounts out of the runs that we were doing while we were getting all of that stuff, which was nice. And it's, it's neat, it's fun, it's interesting. I just feel like it doesn't feel like a modern addition to the game. It feels like something from BFA, and I think that's unfortunate because it needs those modern touches of, hey, here's hard lines on where a circle is that light up in a color that you can see. Here's Thrall's frontal that he's going to do when he turns and faces someone. Here's projected lines in front of him where this thing's going to go so that you're not getting smacked by this thing, because while he's leaping around the room doing all the stuff he does, you didn't notice that this is the time where he's casting his frontal, and you are currently standing slightly off to his left and still got hit by it. So it's one of those, like, I want those features in this feature. I don't know if we're going to get them because it's such a small window of time that this is around for, but I feel like that's part of the miss for me with all of it. I am here for the people who love the challenge and really wanted to push themselves and do it. I'm still of the opinion that next week I'm going to max out the system on the tree, and then I'll start looking at getting some of the achievements and stuff done if that's something I want to do with my spare time. But it's down my list, man. It's horrific visions still aren't speaking to me on a big level, and we've talked about the deal with heroic loot out of there where it's not warbound. It's only champion gear is warbound, and how are you unlocking the heroic pieces without having heroic pieces already? Like, all of those things still exist as an issue that we talked about last week, so I don't want to get into them too much. But yeah, I did do a bunch of horrific visions this week because my friends sort of dragged me along, and it was like, all right, sure, we'll have a
you
look
were
at this.
voluntold for some visions.
I absolutely was. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a little bit of visions this week, not much, but I didn't really have the pull. My whole thing is like, I do want to do it. I want to get the stuff out of the system, but I want the tech tree unlocked first. Like, I don't want to put the time in, but I will say, like, if you really don't care about horrific visions, it's a very minimal time investment to get the greater enchant, which is good. I think that that was smart about the way they implemented it. If all you're in it for is the character power, you can get in and get out as long as you know what to do. You may need to look up a guide or whatever, but yeah, like in Org, you got to go to the 2 lost sectors, which the one you can get to straight away, and the other one you can skip most of that section and just go to the Rexar section. And just do that. You don't even have to defeat Thrall at that point. You kill those 2 bosses, you can just die or like run out of sanity or whatever and get your quest items and then start over and do that 4 times and then you're done forever. So that is like a nice way that they implemented it. But I did it like a couple times. I have all the masks now. Like I unlocked them all. I haven't been using them. So I'll go back and probably like next week or the week after I'll start doing it with a little bit more purpose because we'll be able to get farther down that tree. Like for
go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, like, I get what you're saying. I do like the fact that like the learning curve is so much less steep for this round. Like, it's so much easier than Horrific Visions used to be, and the fact that you can just do it whenever you want to do it without having this like currency around how you can run it. Those are all like, it is definitely like copy paste, but they removed a bunch of the friction of just like doing the system. And man, I mean, like it used to be such a chore to get your corruption resistance up on whatever tunes you were playing for the week. And it was like a necessity, and this is minimal investment. So if you don't like them, you could still get the power without having Horrific Visions like become your life or like the thing that you're playing, for any significant amount of time. It's a couple hours maybe total to get your greater enchant.
Sorry, I had to cough. I was going to say that the masks that you're wanting to use, and you unlock them all in different ways, and some of them are specific to different. Like I know that the Dark Imagination mask was specific to Mage Quarter, and Mask of the Pain is specific to Old Town, etc. But the masks that you really care about, if you're someone who's just going to run a bunch of Horrific Visions over and over, are Nemesis and Multitudes. So Multitudes means that there's just going to be more enemies inside the Horrific Visions. There's just more of them. And Nemesis means every time you kill 25 enemies, you spawn an elite mob. And if you are someone who's spending points in the talent tree, you probably have the elite extermination thing that you've gotten from this, which gives you back sanity every time you kill an elite, which means you essentially create a loop of sanity creation by just running through these Horrific Visions, killing a whole bunch of mobs, spawning in Gammon, who happens to be the elite that consistently spawns in as the Nemesis. You defeat Gammon, and then you keep going. The one mask that I think you'll notice the most as you're sort of pushing through this is Vengeance, which is the killing enemies will bolster their allies with Vengeance, increasing their damage done by 15% for 20 seconds, and it stacks. Which means if you are doing larger pulls, and Gammon comes spawning in, he will get Vengeance bolstered, which means he will now hit like a freight train, and he does an AoE stun with his War Stomp, and he will destroy you. So Vengeance I would stay away from for most people unless you're trying to do an 8-mask thing, but Nemesis and Multitudes are like one of the first ones I would put on, in my opinion. Daredevil is also, one of those things to watch out for, where it makes you take 400% increased sanity damage, which means that anything that's going to do sanity damage to you now does 4 times as much sanity damage. So like the AoE shout that you get before the last boss of one of the wings in the Lost Zones does like 300 sanity damage, and you just watch your sanity bar like collapse substantially every time that happens. So you want to be careful with that one, obviously, but I really do think that Vengeance is probably the mask to avoid when it comes to a lot of these masks. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, there's some cool synergy with the new masks and with the tribute system and all that, where like, yeah, if you're playing with Multitudes and you get more stuff to kill, and you're playing with Nemesis, then you're getting more elites spawning because you're killing more stuff. And then if you have your tributes maxed, then you're getting a ton of sanity from killing the elites that are spawning off the stuff that you're killing. So it's like a sanity battery in a way, as long as you can, survive what you're fighting. So it's kind of a cool wrinkle, but yeah, I think most people are in the boat of like, I don't care about this. I don't get why I don't get why it was a thing if they never played BFA, or I didn't like it in BFA and I don't want to do it now if they did play it in BFA. So it is what it is, but it's a minimal part of my WoW diet this week. We ended up doing just a 2-night raid week because signups have just not been there. Even for Wednesday, I didn't have signups, and obviously this week coming up, it's going to fall off a cliff. But just blasted out the stuff we can kill. I mean, the mythic reclears have gotten really smooth, and this week coming in, this next reset, we're getting another 3% zone buff if you're caught up with your renown in the raid. So I can't imagine what heroic reclears are going to start being like, but not a complaint. We climbed that hill a couple months ago, so I just want to kill stuff and hang out with my friends. Finish vault by Wednesday again. We did that thing where we had kind of short raid night Tuesday, Wednesday, and then nice. And then 4 keys back to back to back to back. Just living in 12s and 13s basically. I squeezed out like a tiny little bit of rating from some 13 that I did a little bit faster, but I'm not trying to push above that. One thing that we're doing now is doing 12s for resilience for people's alts, which is really cool because a trinket vendor is so strong, but you have to get all 12s in time. So being able to do that has been nice because, I mean, like you said, it's mid-season. It's like the midway point. It's the later half of the season. People want to play different stuff or mix it up. So I don't really want to do keys on anything other than the warrior, but happy to help people unlock stuff so they can get cool loot. And yeah, my druid ended up having some pretty good vault luck and is now in full hero track. So druid is just doing gilded delves, just 3 delves a week, and then maybe tag him in for some raid cleanup or whatever if I want to. Monk still needs a couple pieces to get full hero track, but so I took the monk to heroic cleanup and on Wednesday. Nothing I could even roll on. Not even like, oh, this isn't good. It's like, a monk doesn't wear this. So that was kind of frustrating, but it's a more diverse loot pool for the vault from heroic raid than from just like slamming delves. So yeah, that's good. I'm hoping I can round him out and then just like either ramp down or maybe play the paladin or the DH a little bit more. And other than that, I've been doing some Nightfall Flames Radiance stuff. I'm almost Renown 10. I haven't been doing it a lot, as you can tell. I'm still not Renown 10, but I'm like most of the way there from Renown 9 at this point, which is really fun. I mean, it's a low buy-in, right? It's not hard to do, and it just kind of rains Warbound gear on you. And, I got I think like yesterday, I barely even really played her, maybe for like an hour. And between stuff I had lying around and doing like one loop of Flames Radiance on the Demon Hunter, I think I got her like 20 or 30 equipped item levels coming out of whatever crap she was wearing from the end of season 1, and then like turn that into also 2-piece. And it's just nice to be able to kind of take that rocket ship ride out into the beginning of season 2 gear and just watch that all stack up and get the bonuses on. We have all the catalyst charges banked up now. There's like 7 charges on the thing or whatever. So, that was cool too. That's like a little side project. I don't know how much I'm really going to do that, but it felt fun to do yesterday. And it was like, well, I still need some reps. So why not grab a different tune and get out here and get some gear in the process. So yeah, I mean, I think I'll I'll definitely hit Renown 10 this week, and then I'll kind of assess, what I want to do with it. Because we got also Dastardly Duos is going to change the picture for gearing this week as well. So, but yeah, I'm just, I've kind of ramped down a bit on the organized play and spending a little bit more time just doing solo stuff, just hanging out, just doing stuff in WoW that like I haven't really given myself the chance to do because it's been this up to this point in the season. It's been like, okay, I got to just check off everything on the list for the main this week. Okay. Oh wait, I still need to do 3 more of these. Okay, now go to the monk and do it again. And yeah, I'm kind of cycling out of that, which feels good. It feels good to just like log into a tune that's kind of in garbage gear and just go, oh, let me just go do anything that I feel like doing because I'll also get a benefit to the character. Like that, there's actually something to be said for that.
For sure. No, and yeah, it's one of our favorite things about the BFA expansion is that's how the whole expansion kind of felt is, your time investment is valued and worthwhile as far as that goes. Yeah, I did my last craft on my druid this week. I think I'm now wearing 6 pieces of crafted gear on that character. I had never gotten mythic shoulders, so I was still rolling around heroic shoulders that were maxed out, and so this was the week where I was like, all right, I have the sparks, I have what I need. I'm just going to craft a set of shoulders. Everything else I'm wearing is tier. I had mythic tier gloves, which meant that typically the craft piece for druid is gloves, because the gloves are like haste with heavy verse or something. They're really not ideal stat weight wise. They're okay. They're just not great. So normally that's the piece you craft. But for me, I was like, look, if I can gain 10 item levels off of crafting shoulders, I'm going to gain 10 item levels off of crafting shoulders. So I did that. So that's nice. That happened. And then at the end of last week, I did my 4 mythics, because we had the mythic dungeon event last week for current expansion. I did my 4 mythics, got my little box of heroic loot, and the heroic piece I got was the Jaster's Diamond, which I thought was hilarious. So I then upgraded that ring, and then with a couple of like tweaks and moving stuff around, that ring, it didn't just roll a Jaster's Diamond, it was a Jaster's Diamond with avoidance. So it has like 1400 avoidance on it, which is crazy. And it's 2% is what that equates to. So 2% less AoE damage taken, which is massive. So I looked at that, and I looked at my Cersei Circlet, which I was still wearing, because it just scales with mastery so freaking hard that it's crazy how much that ring is valuable for a lot of classes. And I did the math and did the sims, and there was a 300 DPS, just 300 DPS difference between removing my Cersei Circlet and putting on the Jasper's Diamond that would have favored Cersei Circlet. So I was like, I'm willing to give up 300 DPS for the stamina and the avoidance that this ring brings to this equation. So that was a decision I made with that. Now, again, DPS isn't really the factor for me at the moment because I'm healing for the last boss anyways. So I know I'm going to be DPSing for our re-clears and whatnot because we're testing out some new healers, but healing is going to be my thing going forward, main on the team. But when it comes to the DPS thing, it was like, look, it's a haste heavy, mastery heavy item. It's going to be good for druid regardless. So I was happy to throw on a extra stam, extra avoidance, Jasper's Diamond. So I'm pretty pleased with that. But
that's a nice rip for sure. That's really good.
It was a crazy rip. I couldn't believe it. That those boxes have been very favorable this entire tier for a lot of. I've heard a lot of people have gotten really good stuff out of those trinkets that are massive, Jasper's Diamonds, other things like that. That
I did get an Eye of Kazan out of one.
Someone got an Eye of Kazan out of one.
Like early in the season, that's how I got my Eye of Kazan. Yeah. So I mean, it's probably just dumb luck, but it'd be cool if they juiced them a little bit. Like if they just weighted the cool items a little bit higher to reward you for doing stuff that maybe the item doesn't actually come from.
Yeah, it'd be neat. Anyways, let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, following up on our Time Walking chat from last week, this is the Burning Crusade Time Walking week, where the Sign of the Twisting Nether buff is up, increasing reputation gains from combat and quests for Burning Crusade reputations by 50%, and characters level 10 and above can access Time Walking versions of Blood Furnace, Botanica, Magister's Terrace, Mana Tombs, Shattered Halls, and Underbog. And the dungeons are dropping 606 eye level gear, with the vendor selling 593s. And you complete 5 of these to get yourself a normal cache of Liberation of Undermined gear. This also means that Black Temple is back. For those people wanting to join into a 10 to 30 player raid and access a Time Walking version of Black Temple, you will get yourself some 636 eye level gear from the drops inside of that dungeon. And of course, if you're someone who has the Warglaives from farming them in the non-Time Walking version, and you can kill Illidan and then use those Warglaives as a transmog for your character. So if people who have not done that yet, this is a decent week to try and farm some Warglaives and then maybe run a Time Walking and see what you can do and get yourself that extra transmog reward. The cache,
it's cool. It's unique and it's like the only way to do it. So like if you care about this at all, like this, I mean, I think this is the first time Burning Crusade Time Walking has been around this season. Like the rotation on the Time Walking is long now. So just to put that out there, it is, stuff is slowing down. We keep talking about that over the last couple of weeks. But if you care at all about having Warglaives of Azeroth Mog for your Demon Hunter, and you have the Warglaives or whatever, and you just can't Mog them, do this week. You'll be glad you did, because at some point you're gonna go, oh man, I wish I had that. When's the next time walking? Oh, it's 3 months from now. Good luck remembering that that's even happening. So just to put that out there, it is the only way to unlock it. That's got to just watch the calendar.
There's also a quest you can pick up in Shatrath before you queue for Black Temple Time Walking, which gets you a heroic piece of raid loot from Burning Crusade. This could be anything. This could be a trinket. This could be weapons. This could be anything. This was a controversial thing at the beginning of Season 1 because one of these rolled around and people were pulling heroic pieces of gear that were prominent pieces of gear from Black Temple. It just, doing their Illidan clear. So that's another thing. Don't forget to pick up that quest before you get in there and do your Black Temple for the week if that's something you're trying to do. Great way to get some characters, some gear. Okay. Go down to Undermine. Be sure you pick your reputation that you're wanting to support for tasks that you're doing down there. So if you do any tasks down there, it's actually going towards a particular faction. Be sure you do that early in the week so that all your side gigs and everything else are contributing towards that. This week is Titan Disc Fragments, which means you need to collect 100 Titan Disc Fragments from rares, treasures, bosses, dungeons, and delves. And you will turn those in to get your Spark Fragment. If that's what you're looking for the week, get one of those. As well as you'll want to check out what the dungeon quest is over there in case there's a particular dungeon that syncs up with some Mythic Plus or something you're running for the week. So get that extra reputation bonus that you can get there.
I just want to chime in on the weekly rotation thing.
Yeah.
Because we talked about it extensively this past week with the World Quest bonus event, and the Choose one week going, oh, hopefully World Quest will be in there. They weren't. So it didn't work out that way. But I did the Exploring Undermine thing, which takes about 8 seconds. It takes no time at all. So that is a good option when that comes around. Disc fragments, usually I would just go do 3 delves, but I'm cutting my delves back quite a bit on the main especially. So I don't know. I might be waiting on this one until just the delves weekly rolls around, at least for the warrior.
That's
the other two, the alts live in delves anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, that's the nice thing about the 3-week rotation is you can just stack them up.
That's I really do want to give props to whoever came up with the concept of putting these out and having them be viable and valid for 3 weeks before they come back around again. Because you can go, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'll pick up my Titan Disc Fragments now. I'm not going to worry about it really. And then the Delves Weekly comes around. You go out and you knock out some Delves, and suddenly you're done your Titan Disc Fragments at the same time. You're like, great. Or you just progressively finish it over time by doing things like killing the Godfather, who drops a 642 eye-level war-bound piece of loot for your, collection, and you can send off to alts and whatnot, so you can go out there and kill a world boss and get some Titan Disc Fragments and have that contribute towards it too, as a possibility. All right, the affix for the week for Mythic Plus is Ascendant. This means that 10 orbs appear every minute while in combat that must be interrupted, purged, knocked back, or crowd controlled to make them be dispelled or disappear. And this then gives your group a buff that increases your haste and movement speed. So you want to be sure that you're interrupting and disrupting these orbs. Otherwise, the enemies get buffed with haste, which you don't want at all. So be sure you're dealing with the orbs properly. This is one of those fairly simple ones for most classes. I mean, if you're a druid, you bring Typhoon. If you're a priest, you have Mass Dispel, which can get rid of these. If you're a warlock, you have your shadow, whatever it is that stuns everything in an area. That's a really good one too. And just disrupting roar for druids. There's all sorts of things that make these orbs go poof. You can even just interrupt them. You can just cast an interrupt. So if you're someone who's like, hey, we got most of them, but there's that one orb that spawned in late because they spawned in a staggered wave. Someone just throws an interrupt on it. It's pretty great. So easy affix. Be sure that you're just taking care of them in time. I can't think of a boss where these stand out as, oh no, they're really inconveniently placed when they spawn, because they generally spawn near players in a wave, and typically classes have many ways to deal with the large amount of them that spawn. So just be sure you're paying attention to the fact that they are coming and have something for them. Ring of Peace is also really nice.
Yeah, Ring is great because you don't have to wait for everything to spawn in. You see where they're going to be, and then the ring stays down as they spawn in and then immediately pop. But yeah, I don't know. As far as particularly bad dungeons with the affix, I mean, I guess Rookery could be weird, right? That third boss is always sort of a problem for anything because of the weird arrangement that you have to set the party up around it. So if you don't have like a tool that you can get over to where the orbs happen to spawn, then that could kind of stink. But yeah, overall, I mean, this one it's a bit more like, it is disruptive because you get all these plates spawning in, and they are like in a physical location inside the dungeon and everything, but it doesn't really ask a lot of you to deal with. So I don't think it's too bad. So that combined with low level fortified means it's a pretty good week to get in there and, you know, move some keys up if you haven't really been engaging in the system very much this season. Like, it should be an easy week for, you know, up through 9s, even if you don't really know the dungeons like the back of your hand. I mean, once the tyrannical bosses start kicking in, then the bosses get more complicated for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think this is it's a pretty nice combo for the lower level ranks.
Yeah. Darkmoon Fair is currently up and live. It's going to run until next Saturday, so be sure you're getting down there to get your knowledge points for your professions, your experience and reputation buff, your doing some races and getting some achievements. You're getting your Darkmoon Fair tokens so you can buy your dirigible. You're doing your pet battles to get extra pet battle tokens. You're fishing up your fish if you're wanting to either get even more of those Darkmoon Fair tokens, or if you're someone who wants to sell them off, or if you're someone who wants to eat them for Mythic Plus. Either way, they're all down there. And fish up your fish heads so you can wear your fish heads to raid. You know, all sorts of things over at Darkmoon Fair to participate in and have fun with. So be sure you're doing that. I might just go down there and play some Minesweeper, which is fun enough on its own.
There you go. Yeah, I got to get down there because I'm like in the home stretch with my blacksmithing knowledge. I think I need like 40 points or fewer than 40 points, something like that. So we're really getting close. So every point counts. But yeah, don't forget it's going on. I've definitely had some moments, you know, especially lately, where it's like, oh, did I do Darkmoon Fair this week? Oh, it's like Thursday. I better make sure I go do that. You know, it's it's only a week. It is kind of nice with time walking too. There's a nice overlap there for leveling. You know, get a little extra XP bonus on top of just blasting out some time walking for now. So if you're working on that this week, keep that in mind.
Yeah, and don't forget to bring your thermal anvil with you so you can do those horseshoes that you need to do for your blacksmithing. All right, the micro holiday for the week is the 1,000 Boat Bash. That is taking place on June 6th until the 8th, and we are going to have citizens of Azeroth heading down to Thousand Needles and picking up a quest there, which gets you access to a boat. You sort of put together your own boat, and then you can drive it around, and you can use the boat in all zones for 7 days. And the boat moves at 330% increased speed across the surface of water, which used to be phenomenal back in the Legion days when basically the entire continent was connected by rivers, and there was no faster way to get around than hopping inside your boat and just going upstream, which was crazy. So we have fond memories of the 1,000 Boat Bash, but if it's something you haven't experienced yet, it's probably worthwhile just going down, checking out, knocking out. You got a couple days to do it, and you get a fun little thing to ride around in for a while.
Yeah, the quest chain is awesome. If you're into piratical stuff, it's a really fun, like, pirate themed quest down there. So do that if you've never done it. The only thing that stinks about that is it's a one time per character ever thing. So if you've done it, you can't go do it again. Another cool element of 1,000 Boat Bash is that, at least at the time it came out, all of the playable races had unique boat models to match, you know, whatever their kind of aesthetic is. So that's a really fun thing about it. Yeah, it was incredible the first couple of years it was out because we had water everywhere. And so it would even be good to like fly to the coastline and then just zip down the coastline to the next zone, you know? So now we have, you know, sky riding, and we don't need any of this, unfortunately, but it is really cool. So if you've never done it, I would certainly recommend it if you're just looking for something kind of fun and lighthearted to check out. It only runs a couple days, but at least you do have a couple days to do it, and it runs over a weekend this year, which is nice. Sometimes it's just like in the middle of the week. It's always June 6th through June 8th, I think. So at least this year, it falls in a spot where you might have a little bit of extra time to check it out, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, hot fixes for the week. Inside Dungeons and Raids, Chrome King Galliwix on heroic and normal difficulties. They reduced the number of players in fused and TikTok canisters to 1. This is the minimum required now. You remember 2 weeks ago, I was basically saying, hey, We went in there with a group of 12 people. These canisters still required 3 people to stand in each of them, which made it very difficult to try and organize versus a larger group, because in a larger group, you just generally had more people who could just stand inside these canister spaces to make it happen. Now, I will say only having one person in a canister does not mean that one person won't die, because it is shared damage. So you do want to have more than one person in the canisters, but there's only one required, which means if you have 2 people inside a canister space and they both drop to 5% health, it's not wiping the raid to have that canister not have a third person in it. So the great change. I'm glad they listened. If that's what happened, I appreciate it. I always find it convenient when I complain about something on the show or mention a problem on the show, and then like 2 weeks later, here's the hot fix. It's resolved. That's always really nice. Thank you. So I'm this is obviously a little bit delayed for some of the smaller groups that are out there doing this early, but I'm really glad that this was something that got fixed, because it will make the farm for a lot of those smaller teams much easier going forward, of just not having a random wipe because you only had 2 people inside a circle as opposed to 3 when that's like, 3/4 of your group literally has to be inside circles to make this happen, or everyone in your group has to be inside a circle to make this happen, is not a situation you want to create for a lot of players. So good to see this.
Yeah, especially as we kind of ease our way out of season 2. We're definitely well into that that downslide. It's like groups are going to get smaller, right?
Yeah.
Like groups are going to keep getting smaller as people keep rating this tier. So it is a good change, and it is kind of funny how a lot of times stuff comes up on the show and then we see stuff get addressed. I don't know that means that they're listening directly to us, but I think it does, it does kind of show that we are sort of engaged in the game and paying attention to it, I guess. Like, right? Like,
Sure.
It feels validating, I guess, doing what we do around here. But yeah, this is an awesome change. Because, I usually raid this with not anywhere near a small group. I'll have a smaller group this week, but still plenty of people where it's not like you're even thinking about, okay, you go in this one and you go in that one and you go in the other one. Okay, we got them. So nobody wants to think about that either. Like it's a soak thing. Like, I feel like it's really tough to have sort of like a bare minimum thing. It's like either it's a 1 per customer or it's everybody should be in this, or everybody that can be in this should be in this. So those are like the good kind of soak mechanics. Think of like, we know the Kill Jaden spikes, right? That we call, as we call them. And that's usually like a 1 per customer thing. Then you have stuff like the bomb and Cauldron of Carnage, right? That the T-Rex puts out.
Yep.
Like, you want to have everybody in that if you can, but if like one person's out kicking a toy or whatever, or like pointing the fire breath at the fence, you're probably not going to die because you were missing one person out of that soak. So like those are okay. Requiring like a minimum number of players that's higher than 1 and not just like as many people as you can get, that's real tricky. That's where you start going, is there some way an add-on can help me with this? So that's a good change.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly in that I feel like requiring 3 people so the whole raid doesn't wipe. Like, if there aren't 3 people, then it explodes and everyone dies. That to me is an overly complex mechanic. To require 3 people because, hey, if you have 1 person, they're just going to die. It's too much damage. No player can live through it. But you just lose 1 person, I get as a less complex mechanic, especially if you have battle reses. You might just plan to sacrifice people inside certain situations. But I feel like that's a better mechanic for World of Warcraft raiding than requiring 3 people or it explodes and wipes the whole raid. So I'm with you. I agree, especially on normal and heroic difficulties. Maybe on Mythic you'd look at those requirements, which is why they're only reducing it on normal and heroic. I'm just saying.
Right, and you have a static group size on Mythic, which is why you can require stuff like that, right? Whereas that's the downside of the flex raid is like they can't plan for how many people you have in it. So mechanics like this need to be kind of massaged a little bit, I think.
So they caught on to a trick I was doing, Jason, inside Operation Mechagon Workshop.
Oh, so this one was your fault too.
This one I didn't tell anyone about it, okay? I didn't, I was told about it and I was like, oh, this is really neat. So I didn't tell anyone about it. Yes, they address an issue where the junkyard dog being rooted can prevent other dogs from casting Fiery Jaws, which is basically when you're coming up to the second boss inside of Workshop, and there's all those dog packs with the patrolling dogs. If you'd pulled one off to the side and just rooted it there and just kept it rooted, its timer for Fiery Jaws would have to be completed and would have to do its fiery jaws before any other dog could do fiery jaws. I have no idea why the spaghetti code worked that way, why it was some sort of weird priority system of like one dog does fiery jaws, which then allows the next dog to do fiery jaws, which is why they all kind of leap in sequential order when they're doing it. But if you pulled that particular way and rooted that ad, and not that particular, you could pull any of the dogs and root one of them off to the side. As long as one of them was rooted, it meant the others could not jump because that one was not doing its jump to do it. So it just removed the leaping onto people, biting them for a large amount of damage, and then applying a fire dot, which then ticks for a large amount of damage. So it was a way on hierarchy, especially when we were doing like 15s, to avoid having that massive dot and ticking damage happen and whatnot. So we're now back with this fix to just AoE pulling everything and making the healer blow through a ton of cooldowns and hoping people live and no one gets jumped on twice in a row and gets multiple stacks of the dot and dies. Like, that's really what we're back to. The counterplay is gone, even though it seemed like weird counterplay. This was not one of those counterplays where I was like, oh, this is like cheating. To me, this felt like a clever use of game mechanics, and they removed it. So they didn't like it. I guess that's the way it is.
Yeah, so be it. I mean, I feel like even on like 13s, if you're in like updated gear, I think you're probably just saying, you know what, whatever, just fight them all, unless your healer's really stressed. And it was like, well, you know, this might save your life if you're really pushing. But at this point, like 13s, I realize are like high, but they're not as high as they used to be. Right?
Yeah.
Like now we're all in 680 plus gear. Like 13s don't feel like 13s anymore. So, you know, I think anything that can, I don't know. Also, like not every group is going to be able to root the dogs like at all, let alone for long enough to take advantage of this. So, yeah, I think when you have, it's one thing to have, you know, a pocket strat based around a like a class or a specs kit when it's, you know, a more expected behavior, I guess, right? Like you have a pack that you mind soothe and you run by them, like, okay, well that's you have a priest in your group, but you know, this is like, well, we glitched this one dog out and with a, you know, a decently long route, and then it makes this trivial. Like I get why they would fix this, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
no, I fully understand why they fix it.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, Dastardly Duos. So they put out a post this week for Dastardly Duos, and the post that they put out this week basically covered like the history of the bosses you were going to be fighting, which is cool. I'm glad they did that, but it also meant that like we didn't learn about the mechanics and rewards of Dastardly Duos. So there was then another post that came out that kind of explained the launch and what the launch was going to look like, so that you had some kind of idea of that. But we still don't really see like the full fleshed out blog post for Dastardly Duos that we're looking for. So this is what we got. This is from Kyvex. It says, hey, we're launching on 8 a.m. Pacific time on June 3rd. Dastardly Duos going to be kicking off. So if you're in Eastern time, that's 11 a.m. That's going to be with reset, which makes me think that they're not planning for extended maintenance, which makes me think that this is weird to release a timeline because I bet there's going to be extended maintenance. I'd be surprised if there wasn't. But anyways, we'll find out.
Hey, technically the feature's live. Whether servers are up is irrelevant at that point, right? The feature's live if it's live.
Yep. And players can set up and take on animatronic versions of bosses and gain power-ups and strive for higher and higher scores and bragging rights. And you basically like get in there and fight 2 or more bosses at a time is what they say. So I guess you can probably toggle on additional bosses. They're a 5-player instance event. It's going to run for 6 weeks. 4 bosses will be available to fight in week 1. Each additional week of the event will add additional bosses with a total of 10 bosses to face throughout the event. And there's going to be weekly quests from Vinny Sweets, which rewards toys, pets, a mount, and a cache of champion gear. In week 1, it's a Dastardly Banner toy. Week 2, it's a Winner's Podium toy. Week 3, it's a Spicy Mean Ball pet. Week 4, it's a Winner's Podium high score for the Podium toy. Week 5, it's Tyrannotort's treat mount. And week 6, it's an item level display for the Podium toy. So you get all these Podium toy things, which kind of sounds a little bit like they're syncing up all this Podium stuff for if you want to put it inside your housing. I'm just saying, get like a podium and a bunch of display stuff that you're putting up in there. But yeah, I'm curious if there's anything if there's just a weekly reward and that's the motivation to get in there, or there's like a grindable currency you're buying stuff with, but they haven't said anything about that. So my guess is might just be these weekly things that you get. The gameplay itself.
Yeah, it sounds like you get, I mean, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
And from what I could see, I mean, yeah, Blizzard has not released a lot of information about this. And I did watch the video they put out. I'm like, well, this is a nice video, but it tells me nothing about the feature that I'm going to be playing. So that wasn't too helpful, but you know, I looked up some guides, like Wowhead had some stuff about it from PTR testing, and it seems like you get 1 guaranteed champion cash per week from the quest from Vinny.
Oh, okay.
And so like that's, but I don't know if there's anything else.
Right.
In terms of gear, I don't know if there's like end of loot gear, or if there, yeah, like you said, some kind of currency or whatever that you can use to just buy stuff. But at the very least, if you do your 6 weeklies, you'll get all of the unique rewards and 6 champion caches, it sounds like, or at least that's the way it was looking on PTR. So
all right,
that's kind of cool. I if it's decently accessible, and you can run this solo, so if it's not like super hard for characters that might want champ gear, then that's kind of a nice deal.
that's what I was going to say, is like, if they're rewarding champion gear, then we're placing this at that somewhere between LFR and normal difficulty. That's like not really normal difficulty, somewhere between LFR and normal is what they're aiming for difficulty wise. We'll see if it comes out at that point, but that is the aim. If they're going to give you champ gear, if they're going to give you hero gear, you'd be like, okay, this is like at least normal difficulty raid stuff, if not, you know, a little bit more complicated than that. So that hopefully they hit that mark. We'll find out. There are unique consumables so that you can actually like get a beefy burger, which increases your damage done. So there's unique consumables for this event. You can have things that make you take reduced physical damage taken, and you can have special drinks that increase your movement speed and make you gain health every 2 seconds. There's one that turns players invisible. So there's a few buffs that you can get from consumables in that. You can queue with up to 5 players, and unfilled spots are going to be filled with volunteers, which are follower dungeon NPCs. So yes, you can queue this solo. It will put you in with a bunch of follower dungeon NPCs. I really like this. This is very cool. This is a very good choice to not put me with a bunch of random people and whatnot, but put me in with NPCs. You can solo do it, and this is something for a solo player. I like that. It also means that if you're giving me follower dungeon NPCs, this probably is hitting that mark between LFR and normal. As far as difficulty goes, I think that's also a neat thing to see. So hopefully that all pans out well, because that seems like a really good choice as far as tuning stuff goes.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to do this match made. Like, I'll queue in with friends if friends want to do it, and if friends don't want to do it, then I'll queue in solo, and I would much rather play it that way. I feel like just the way this is all set up and how it's kind of positioned, and the limited time nature of it, it's like you don't want to end up in a matchmade group with people who are really kind of cross purposes or something. You know, I don't want that friction. And if my friends are interested in doing it, then cool. It seems like it'll be kind of a fun thing to do, but it's probably not really like this, but I sort of get the Brawlers Guild vibe out of this event, right? Like, it's probably not as, you know, custom as Brawlers Guild was in terms of what you're fighting and everything. But it sort of has that vibe, and like, man, would you want to do like a match-made Brawlers Guild with like a full 5-player party like that?
No,
that wouldn't sound fun to me. And so I wouldn't want to do it for this either. So when I found out that it would you could solo queue with followers, I was like, okay, well, I will. You know, I'm definitely going to take advantage of that.
What I do want, since you mentioned Brawlers Guild, which is like a trigger for me because I really want Brawlers Guild back, is a spectator event. That's one of the things I loved about Brawlers Guild, was to go down to the Brawlers Guild.
That was really
people
cool.
would queue up. You'd get to watch them make their attempts. You'd be announced when your position in line was. You'd like be waiting there watching other people try and complete their challenges before you went in for yours. And you could learn from what they were doing. You could cheer them on. It was great. I think that was a really neat thing to have, like an in-game spectator event. And this would be another thing that would be very cool if it was an in-game spectator event, because it's one of those things that, like, if you could watch someone fight 2 giant animatronic bosses inside an arena and see what they chose to do and how they did it, that would be cool. That would be a really cool thing to be able to do. I think they should probably look at doing more things like that. So that's where I stand with it. All right. As far as combat goes, the performance at the end is displayed by an overall score as far as your performance when in it. It counts damage to bosses. It counts damage to props and trash. How quickly the match was completed, and avoiding deaths is also a good thing. So that's all in there. Apparently, there's bonus score that can be earned by finding cherry bombs that are found within the arena, which have a large green circle around them. You right-click the cherry bomb, it kicks it in the direction the player is facing, and any trash or bosses defeated with a cherry bomb will net the player double the score. So you could sort of like try and sync up like the last few ounces of health the boss has with kicking a cherry bomb, and that can kind of get you some double score. So I guess that's also something to sort of pay attention to when it comes to this sorts of stuff. Okay.
So it seems like there's some, there's some strategy in terms of like, okay, which consumables am I going to use? Like there's ones that give you buffs, and then there's ones that give you debuffs but bonus score, right? So there's that kind of math to do. Like, all right, how am I going to approach this? And probably stepping in at first, you probably just want to buff yourself and figure out kind of how it works, and then you could start layering on the challenging stuff with the the food debuffs. And then there's the layer of like, okay, once I'm actually inside and fighting, like how do I approach this? How much stuff can I kill? How can I use the bombs to my advantage? Stuff like that. So I think those are things I'm going to be looking for when I step in here this week coming up. It seems cool. Like I can't say that I'm excited for this really, but I like the idea of them just doing something kind of wacky. And the Tyrannosaurus treat is a really cool mount. I'm kind of a sucker for turtle mounts, and it's a really nice looking one. So, 5 weeks of weeklies and it's yours, which is that's kind of nice. You get a toy and a couple things to modify the toy, and a pet and a mount just for doing the weekly. That's kind of a good deal, and some champ gear along the way. I'm kind of hoping that this will be, relatively accessible at lower-ish item level, and that maybe I'll take the Paladin, the DH, the DK in here and get some champ gear if I can hang. That seems like it would be really fun to me. I think I would enjoy that. So, we'll see how it shakes out in terms of tuning. I haven't played it on PTR, so I don't have any firsthand, take on anything with this feature right now, but it should be rolling out with regional resets this week, and we'll certainly be getting in there. We'll talk about it more next week.
Yeah. Okay. As far as trading post goes, because it is June 1st, which means we have obviously a new trading post kicking off. So there are numerous rewards you can get from this, as you normally would expect. There's this whole Cold Flame battle gear theme where all the weapons have a Cold Flame look to them, which basically means it's blue fire or it's blue glow on black. So if you like blue on black with glowiness, that is definitely your month as far as that goes. But yes, there's a whole suit of armor that you can get. There's a bunch of weapons that are all themed around it as well, of different varieties that you can get. There's a Molten Inferno helm, which is like if you ever wanted to be a fire elemental, this is the helm for you. Absolutely. And there's a Wyvern mount you can get as sort of the big monthly bonus reward. This like flaming sort of like, it's not quite a wyvern. It's its own kind of weirdo creature that has 3 horns on its face, and got like a dog mouth, but it's cool and molten and fiery, and it flies. So if that's something you're looking for this month, you can get that. Last but not least, I wanted to mention the Sunwell Bardiche. If you are someone who's currently playing a Blood Elf, man, this harkens back. This is like an OG weapon.
You gotta have it. If you're a Blood Elf, man, you gotta have this. I guess unless your tune can't use a polearm, but it's really cool looking. The bonus reward, it's like they call it a molten chimera, which is like a play on words between a molten core and a chimera, I guess. Like a wow. It's like a multi-headed thing. It's kind of cool. But I think the Cold Flame stuff is cooler than the molten stuff. The armor and the weapons look really nice. And there's also a Cold Flame variant of the Chimera as well. It's a little pricey, but if you like the concept of it but wish it was the Cold Flame, then you can buy one, which is, that's usually what they do when there's a mount. They have like a palette swap for tender. I haven't gotten a chance to look at the full post in game yet, but there's some cool stuff. I think I'm gonna buy the Cold Flame armor and probably the weapon. There's like there's a one-handed axe that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think there's probably not a shield that matches it, which is always the problem I have. We just need more shields, please. Please remember that some of us need something to put in our other hand that isn't a weapon sometimes to match all this awesome Mog. Like, that's just a personal little request from me, because sometimes it's like, that's my first thought anytime I see a new Mog set is like, that looks awesome, but what shield do I use with it? Like, that's a real concern when you're outfitting your protection warrior, because the shield is like, it's such a huge part of the way your character looks too. It's on your back, or you're carrying it like in front. So I don't know if there is one that matches. I hope there is, but there's probably not. But yeah, some cool. I mean, it's that whole like Midsummer Firefest kind of theme is what I'm getting from this, like the flame versus the cold and all that. So they like to play with that too on the trading posts, sort of these two competing forces or whatever, and that's what they theme each of the variants around. That works okay. Goblin wave shredders are always a popular choice, those like rocket surfboard things. So yeah, some cool stuff. I mean, they spoiled us with Weechi, so we were due for something a little bit less exciting than a customizable Chihuahua pet. So
fair. Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah. The other things that fall into this, so you're right. I mean, they definitely have the Cold Flame version of both the elemental helm I talked about and the fire helm, and that Cold Flame mount you mentioned. The other thing that fit into this that I think a lot of people were wondering where it was the orange Vigilantes mask and whatnot stuff that was not around for the Ninja Turtle stuff. There was just like one turtle was missing. So it's here. This is where it is. It happened this month instead. So if you want to complete your Ninja Turtle look from last month, you can pick up that stuff now. So that's all there for folks if they're looking to get that stuff too. All right. As far as the legacy of Aerithor goes, the 11.1.7 PTR, they have continued to do updates to the belt to allow more players to play around with this thing. And now we know that the unlocks for the powers on the belt are now going to be warband wide. So you're going to be unlocking stuff across your whole warband for your belt, which is a great addition, I think, especially since this thing's only going to be around for a very brief period of time once this patch comes out, because once Season 2 launches, we know they've made the statement they don't want the belt to be relevant like Cersei's Circlet was through that raid content. So you're most likely going to be having this belt for a bit and then replacing it during the raid. So it's one of those things that, we should expect to see that. Yeah,
I think with, we'll see what kind of shelf life the belt has. It's a whole different thing because, a ring is what it is, but a piece of gear, a piece of armor has armor stat on it. It's got primary, that changes the math pretty fast. So we'll see. It kind of depends on how good the proc is outside and everything like that. And I don't know if the traits work outside or not, but we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, and like making the unlocked powers warbound is absolutely 100% correct. Yep. And it's nice that they did it before the ships. The question becomes like, is it just they didn't get a chance to stand it up on PTR? I mean, PTR is really a fast and loose kind of environment. It is a test realm in every sense of the word. So that's entirely possible. But also you kind of wonder, they do sometimes have this identity crisis about, warband stuff and what is not, bound to warband. So you wonder if it was just like, well, somebody won or lost a fight and it was like, okay, this is going to be like this. I just like, I want to lean towards they knew it should be and would have to be, and they just didn't get a chance to, apply it in earlier builds. Yeah. Like, because, right, that's the only thing that makes sense. Could you imagine the outrage from people who like want to play alts and then you log in on your second character? Yeah, you get your second, disc belt and you're like, wait, where's all my stuff? I have to unlock it again on this character. Like it starts really quickly, running against the whole purpose of the warband. So I'm glad that that's like in there early, like, it's not even going to be an issue. unless it doesn't work when the patch comes out. But that's a whole other story. At least it'll be intended.
Yeah. Okay, the other thing we want to talk about is World of Warcraft Mists of Pandaria is launching July 21st, 3 p.m. It's going to have a new playable race, new classes, revamped classes, AoE looting. It's crazy. It's classic. It's Mists of Pandaria Classic. It's the same launch that we had previously. It's just launching again. But yes, it will hit pre-patch on July 1st. It's going to come out on July 21st. You're going to have new pet battles you can hop into. There's going to be a new level cap, new lands to explore. The world event for the attack on Theramore is going to take place. Oh, man, with the mana bomb and all that stuff's happening. Oh, geez. If you haven't experienced that, there's no spoilers. You're going to enjoy that for sure. New PvP arena and 2 new battlegrounds, Sunsong Ranch, scenarios, challenge mode dungeon. The thing they didn't mention in here at all yet is Brawlers Guild is supposed to be in here. So hopefully, true to classic form, we will have Brawlers Guild invitations going out so people can also jump in on their Brawlers Guild during this. And you're going to get a boost if you're someone who actually participates in Season of Discovery. If you are someone who has defeated Balnazar on Season of Discovery, now through June 30th, you will earn yourself 1 level 85 character boost for the classic Mists of Pandaria server. So you'll be able to hop in there and boost a character to 85 if you are someone who has defeated Balnazar in the Scarlet Enclave in Season of Discovery before that happens. So just keep that in mind. Now, all of you retail players who are like, I don't do Classic, I have lost interest, there is something in here for you. So listen up, all right? The Sage Serpent mount. If you play through the Pandarian starting experience from July 1st through July 30th, if you take the time to play through the starting experience, which will require you to install Mists of Pandaria Classic, create a Pandaren character, complete the Pandaren starting experience, which is that, like, you know, learn Kung Fu by standing next to other pandas and mimicking their action stuff. If you do that whole deal for the starting experience, either on Alliance or Horde, right, you have to pick a faction at the end of that. Once you complete Xiaohao's, you'll get Xiaohao's Sage Serpent. It'll be delivered to your modern collection of World of Warcraft mounts. So they're trying to, in my opinion, increase the numbers and get people in to Mists of Pandaria Classic to check it out. And maybe they feel like once you've made a panda, you might get a little bit more likely to get hooked and do a little bit more inside of it. But if you at least do that starting experience, which I think is probably about 2.5, 3 hours long to do, you will get this mount. So if you want the Xiaohao's Sage Serpent mount, hop in from July 1st, July 30th, somewhere in there, and just make a panda and play through to the point where you choose the path of Alliance or Horde, and you'll get that unlock for that mount. So be aware, there is a thing for us modern folks.
Yeah, this was actually off my radar until yesterday when I actually read through the blog and I was putting stuff together for the show this week. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll be doing that. I mean, this mount is incredible. It's the celestial cloud serpent. It looks like Elegon basically, but it's palette swapped to look like that jade mist.
Yeah.
It's just awesome looking. And totally worth the ask here. I think the Pandaren starting experience is really good. As long as you can find the interactables when there's 8 million other people doing this on July 1st, like maybe wait, maybe don't do it on July 1st. But yeah, I think it's a really fun story to play through. I played it a few times over the years with my various Pandaren. So yeah, whatever, I'll do it on the classic server for sure and get an awesome mount for my trouble. I don't really think that I'm going to be playing MOP Classic. I loved MOP. I thought it was a great expansion, but I don't have the room in my diet for more versions of WoW is really what it ends up being, and when retail or modern, as they insist on calling it, although no one will probably ever call it that in the community, but when modern is, on a bit of a downtick, that's my chance to go do something else, play something else, just spend my time in some other way, not pick up a different version of WoW until modern retail spins back up, right? Like, so that, that has affected my relationship with all flavors of classic over the, geez, it's going to be 6 years, I guess, since Classic originally launched, coming up this summer. It's a thing I would love to have time for, but I don't, and it just becomes not a priority. But they did a similar promotion with Wrath Classic for playing a Death Knight starting experience. You get a mount in retail. I did that. I'll do this. I think it's awesome, and the mount is so cool. This is like, just lock this in. Like my Pandaren monk is just riding this mount probably forever. You know, that's just his mount now.
All right, well, fair enough. I'm just curious when we're going to get Gothic WoW or contemporary WoW. You know, something. You know,
right? Yeah, postmodern WoW.
Postmodern WoW. There's some postmodern WoW happening. I don't know.
Like you don't even log into it or something,
Yep.
or I don't know. You log into it, but you don't do anything.
You don't do anything. It's
you get rid of stuff. Like you make bars empty out, and you like you discard your collection. That's right. That's how postmodern WoW works.
Well, anyways, we digress. But there was an announcement also from the Classic team, from Agrand, the game producer over on the WoW Classic team, making a statement saying that they've made the decision to slow down on Season of Discovery and begin work on the next major project in the original WoW design space. They have big plans and ambitions for this type of found photographs content set in the original world of Azeroth. But in order to realize those ambitions, they need to make sure they're spending their time where it will make the most impact on the long-term future of WoW Classic. So they want to set themselves up for success by taking the time they need to get in the proverbial kitchen and cook, iterate on, and shape ideas and lessons learned from Season of Discovery into something truly exciting. Season of Discovery was always meant to be a phenomenal seasonal experience, and while it became so much more for a time, they're extremely excited about the things they're working on for the future. So there's no plans to shut down the Season of Discovery realms, but they hope to see the game mode continue to be popular in the Classic era for many months, if not years to come. They've all grown attached to their characters, just like you have, and they're happy to continue the adventure with you for as long as you'd like. So just if you're someone who's playing Classic season Discovery Classic stuff, and you're like, oh man, are they going to shut down the servers and like delete all our characters and we're going to lose everything? The answer is no. They have no plans to do that. They're going to keep the servers up, but you're probably going to see a massive slowdown on content. They're not going to see another season of it. They're not going to be another rollout of new bosses and things. Most likely, it's just going to be them focusing on other WoW experiences in the background that they're going to be working on. So we'll have to see what they come up with next. But they want to thank everyone for the incredible journey and all the feedback and friends they made, and pushing the boundaries of what original content in WoW could look like. I mean, I will say that Season Discovery Season 1 was a lot of fun, really cool, very neat. It got better in Season 2 for a time, and then it just like fell off a cliff. And I've heard that with the later seasons that have come out, the past couple seasons that come out, they actually like really picked it back up, got really interesting for players, started finally doing some of the things that I'd been asking for, since Season 1 and 2, and that it was a much better experience. So I'm glad to hear that's where they ended up, and obviously they learned the lessons from that, and I'm excited to see what the team comes up with next for the next project.
Absolutely. I think it would be I wouldn't say that you could consider Season Discovery anything other than a huge success.
Yeah.
I thought I loved Phase 1, man. That was some of the most fun I've had in WoW in a really long time. And I think WoW's been on a hot streak for years. I think Dragonflight into War Within is two of the strongest back-to-back expansions we've ever had. I think even the final year of Shadowlands was a dramatic improvement, and that's where they started to turn the ship around. So even in a landscape where I've been really happy with live WoW for a long time, like SOD, I just thought was incredible when like that initial wave, when it was brand new and we were rating, 10-player BFD. Yep. That was so fun to me. And I know it couldn't stay that way forever, but like I was just saying about MOP Classic, I don't have room and I don't have energy to play more than one version of WoW and keep up with it. And they started moving phases pretty fast for me in SOD, and I couldn't stay on the train is really what it came down to. I think what you are saying about sort of the phase progression is sort of the prevailing opinion, is that like it started really strong. By phase 3, it dipped really low, and then they got it back out of the pit as time kept going. I'm not really surprised that Scarlet Enclave is like the end of the road for SOD. That seemed kind of natural, I think. It's cool to hear that they want to expand on this and, figure out other ways to do something SOD like, or maybe it'll be something more, I don't know, more expansive than what SOD was. I love the idea of revisiting classic WoW content with a twist. Vanilla WoW, like that world is just so evocative. The way it's all set up, it's a place I always want to return to, right? And for there to be a team dedicated to figuring out new wrinkles for how to surprise players or add cool new stuff to do in there, I love that. I'm really glad that they have a team dedicated to that. And I know like Classic Plus is something that people were demanding prior to SOD coming out, and SOD wasn't really quite what they thought that they wanted with such a thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure like what the Classic Plus means something different to literally every player.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how to encapsulate that, but I think what they wanted was basically like the traditional, WoW vanilla content experience with like quality of life and other gameplay tweaks or stuff like that.
They want story out too. They wanted additional stories told during that classic era. Like there was a lot of things people had on that list for Classic Plus. I think they hit a really nice balance and mark with what they were doing. I think they gave people really neat things to play around with, the runes that really affected these abilities. I think overall it was a very successful sort of foyer into that experience. And what we saw personally, I think, come out of that was the, Mists of Pandaria Blitz stuff that we saw, because it was them sort of taking those runes and things to the extreme and really putting stuff to the extreme with revisiting that older content. And I think that those sorts of experiments are really important for the WoW community to experience. And as they even said, like, I don't think they planned on going as many seasons as they did. Like I do feel like they were probably greenlit for like 1 or 2 seasons, and then they'd see how the player feedback went, and the player feedback was large enough, and there was a large enough population like regularly playing it, that they went, wow, we need to keep going. And they just kept doing seasons up to this point where they went, okay, this is the natural point where we should look at a different project. Similarly to moving on from the Plunder Storm to something else. It's a similar thing for them of, okay, we should move on to something else other than Season of Discovery to see what this is. I mean, talking about it was always meant to be seasonal and to sort of end. That was something they meant. So yeah, I props to the team. I think they did a good job. I'm looking forward to see what they work on next. And, it's unfortunate that I fell out of it where I did, but I never felt like it was a waste of time or shouldn't be happening or they shouldn't be exploring the stuff they're exploring. I think it was a very successful project. So glad to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I mean, I stay in touch with Josh Corbett, who does Countdown to Classic quite frequently. And I mean, it seemed like, except for the phase 3 dip, like sentiment around the dedicated classic audience for SOD was also really strong, so good. I think they served a lot of different players with the experiment. I think it was great. And I love that they're just leaving it there. No plans to shut the realms down. Just let them be there. I think like it might be harder to find people to play with, but if you haven't checked it out, I do think it's just worth exploring. And now it's in this kind of end state where it's not going to be changing out from under you every few weeks or whatever. If you want to dive in there, now it's sort of everything it's going to have is there probably, right? Maybe there's some little tweaks here and there as time goes on, but the SOD project is complete. So if you haven't explored it and you want to, you can, and hopefully they just leave it up like in Era Realm forever. That would be incredible, because I didn't know what they would do with that. Are they going to end up
merging it or something weird?
Yeah, like they're going to shut it down, because we saw that with the season of what was it? Season of Mastery. It was like, okay, well, this is done now, and you can transfer off to an Era Realm. So like, were they going to do that? Were they going to, I don't know, were they going to roll it into like some kind of expansion progression? Or like, we didn't know what the next step was going to be. I think just kind of vaulting it and saying, okay, here you go, this is SOD era, I love that. I think that's a good way to do it. People can check it out if they want to. It'll be there. It's an option, and on to the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. With that, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. Today, I'm going to give a special shout out to Arajian, Bradley, Chris, James, Garrett, Kapawi, Max, and Shorel. Thank you so much, as well as all of our patrons who hop in there and support the show, or who have hopped in there and support the show in the past. We have a new patron this week, Chris. Thank you very much, Chris, for hopping in and supporting. Chris R., you are jumping in on the Patreon and helping us out. I hope you get over to Discord and are saying hi there if you haven't already. And if you're trying to join our Discord, you can find it over at over at thestartingzone.com, and you can click on the Discord link that's there. But if you want to join our Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/thestartingzone. You can hop on over there and pick the tier that works for you, and we charge per episode, and folks can support it where they can support, and we really appreciate it overall for everyone who gives and supports the show and helps pay the bills, keep the lights on with the show, and keep stuff hosted and going. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Chris, thanks a lot. Welcome aboard. And yes, patrons past and present, thanks so much for supporting us around here, keeping the show on track. We couldn't do it without you, and I mean that sincerely.
Yeah. If you folks want to leave us a review, give us those 5 stars over on your iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or in your I guess you can leave 5 stars now on Spotify is another way to do it. You can head on over there and do that. This one comes in from Rage, who says, appreciate the perspectives here. Many of the WoW podcasts seethe with bitterness and constant interruptions of each other. Appreciate the respect for one another and comprehensive content. Well, thank you very much, Rage, or Rages, or whatever way you want to call it. We appreciate you, and thanks for leaving us the review. And yeah, this is one of the ones Jason snagged off of the US iTunes, I presume. So
it is, yes. Yes, thank you for writing in. Appreciate you taking the time to do that, and great to hear from you, and glad you enjoy the show. And yes, if people have been leaving international reviews, like we've been saying this for unfortunately 6 months now,
it's been a bit.
We still don't have like a good way to obtain those. I don't know if I'm missing them. So I'm sorry. At some point we will have a tool that will let us see them, and we will be able to do that. But at the moment we don't. But thank you, Rages, for writing in, and yeah, I'm glad you dig the show.
Those tools keep shutting down. It's very weird. I don't know what it costs.
That's
to
true
operate
too. There's like something going on.
There's something happening in that world.
Space. Yeah.
I don't know what is happening in that realm, but like there were 3 different tools I've looked at, and the time I've looked at them to go sign up for a trial, one has like eaten another one, and then that one has collapsed, and then something else. You're like, what is happening with? I don't know. It's a very weird realm, so I don't really know what's going on. We'll figure it out. We'll find one eventually that works and sticks and is there. We had one consistently for like 7 years that worked really well. I don't know why it decided to go away, but I'm very sad that it did. All right, that's going to wrap up episode 686 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, for the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Blue Sky, thestartingzone.bsky.social, or on Twitter at thestartingzone, or on Discord. Like I said, you can join our Discord server by going to thestartingzone.com/discord. And if you want to get your hands on some TSC gear, we have a Dashery store. So thestartingzone.dashery.com takes you over there, and that'll get you, shirts and mugs and stickers and that kind of stuff. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
You can find me on socials. You can find me at Twitter over at Shieldwald, and you can also find me on Blue Sky at jlucas.bsky.social. I check both sites regularly. I mostly post stuff to Blue Sky, but yeah, if you want to come say hi, you can find me over there. And you can find video channels on twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. They've been quiet, and I don't know that I'm going to return to like WoW streaming this week. Probably not, but the video channels are there. They won't be dormant forever. I'll do something at some point. I just don't know when, but check them out.
Yeah. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Blue Sky at spencerhd.bsky.social, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@SpencerHD, or over on that old Twitter thing at Spencer_Downey. And you can hop on over there, give me a follow, say hello, whatever it is. But with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and job's done.